The orange evidence stickers tore away in long, stubborn strips, as if the driveway itself was resisting the cover-up. Marlene's hands moved fast, practiced and angry. Peel, fold, hide, while the morning light barely cleared the roofs. Each missing sticker revealed the same raw scarring along the concrete edge and the muddy line where stormwater kept chewing the ground away. She glanced down the street, then toward the house, then back to the damage like she was erasing a problem by force. Above her, a small camera under the eave watched without blinking. What Marlene didn't understand was simple. A judge had ordered those markers to remain.
Jordan Reyes bought the home for stability, not status. The neighborhood promised quiet routines, predictable costs, and a yard big enough to feel like a fresh start. Working from home became easier there. No city noise, no constant disruptions, just clean sidewalks and trimmed hedges that made weekends feel calm. The HOA seemed ordinary at first, almost helpful, with reminders about bins and landscaping and a tidy, uniform look across the street. Jordan kept everything neat, paid dues early, and avoided conflict. But the community had a tension that lived in small gestures. Conversations shortened when certain board members approached. Contractors asked strange questions about approvals before taking small jobs. The HOA president, Marlene Whitaker, appeared everywhere. Inspections, emails, sidewalk strolls that felt less like exercise and more like surveillance. Jordan told himself it was just a strict neighborhood. Then the weather shifted, and the rules stopped feeling neutral.
The first strike arrived after a hard overnight storm. By morning, Jordan's side yard held water like a shallow basin, and the barrage showed a grim tide line where muddy runoff had pushed inside. It wasn't mysterious. The HOA's landscapers had recently regraded the common berm behind Jordan's fence, turning it into a slanted channel that sent rainwater directly toward Jordan's foundation. Jordan documented everything: photos, dates, water depth, the spreading stains, and asked for repairs. The HOA's response wasn't urgency, it was deflection. Maintenance was scheduled, then delayed, then quietly ignored, and almost immediately a violation notice appeared for improper yard conditions, as if the flooding were Jordan's choice. Another notice followed, then fines, then a warning about continued non-compliance. Jordan requested the work order and drainage plan, tried to stay factual, tried to stay calm. The board hardened its posture anyway. The fines climbed while the water returned after every rainfall, and the sense of being targeted stopped feeling paranoid.
Pressure turned into a routine. Inspectors appeared at odd hours, lingering at the curb with clipboards. A landscaper arrived unannounced and scattered seed over muddy ruts like a cheap disguise. Photos were taken from the sidewalk and circulated as community concerns, the kind of vague accusation that poisoned reputations without proving anything. Jordan's requests for drainage reports went unanswered, but the fine ledger updated right on schedule. Jordan hired a private drainage engineer to end the argument with measurements instead of emotions. The report was blunt. The HOA's grading redirected stormwater, and the damage would repeat unless corrected. Jordan submitted it, expecting the board to finally act. Instead, the HOA escalated to a threat that made the stakes real, intent to lean over disputed fines. The message was clear: accept blame, pay up, and stay quiet, or risk the house itself. Jordan stopped waiting for fairness and started building a case that could not be ignored. The lawsuit was not revenge, it was survival. Water damage was starting to warp materials in the garage, and the cost of remediation plus proper drainage correction was far beyond a casual repair. The HOA's insurer refused responsibility without proof that the damage hadn't been conveniently fixed or altered. Jordan needed the truth preserved. A judge issued an evidence preservation order. Jordan was instructed to mark affected areas clearly and avoid changes until inspection and evaluation could occur. That was the purpose of the orange stickers, bright, unmistakable evidence markers along the cracked driveway edge, the eroded soil line, and the repeated pooling points. They weren't decorative, they weren't provocation, they were a boundary between reality and a rewrite. Then Jordan noticed late-night signs that turned the stomach. Tire tracks near the berm, fresh gravel scattered where erosion had been, boot prints pressed into mud Jordan hadn't stepped in since the last storm. Someone was trying to tidy the scene before it could be examined. The final provocation came at sunrise when Marlene arrived and began ripping the court-ordered markers away like they were trash.
Jordan didn't rush outside. Jordan didn't need a confrontation. The camera already had what mattered. The footage showed Marlene approaching with purpose, scanning for witnesses, tearing off marker after marker and pocketing them. It even captured the brief pause where she leaned toward the damaged edge, as if confirming exactly what she was erasing. The timing lined up perfectly. After filings, before inspection, right inside the window where manipulation would do the most damage. At the hearing, the dispute transformed in seconds. What had been framed as a homeowner not maintaining a yard became interference with a court order and destruction of preserved evidence. The room's energy changed the moment the video played through. Marlene's confidence collapsed into stunned stillness when the court record confirmed she had been served. The ruling came down clean and heavy. Sanctions, attorney fees, and a directive requiring an independent drainage correction plan funded by the HOA and overseen by a third party. The fines and lien threats didn't just weaken, they evaporated.
Consequences moved through the neighborhood like weather. Official notices followed, fines reversed, lien threats withdrawn, and written restrictions preventing board members from entering or interfering with Jordan's property without documented cause. Contractors arrived again, this time scheduled, supervised, and accountable, regrading the berm properly, installing drainage that actually carried runoff away, and restoring what had been damaged without hiding it. Marlene stopped looking untouchable. The board distanced itself quickly, less from principle than from fear of repeating the mistake. Meetings became crowded, tense, and carefully recorded. Neighbors who had stayed silent began submitting their own paper trails, odd fines, selective enforcement, photo taking too close to windows, inspections timed like intimidation. Policies quietly changed, more verification, less unilateral power, fewer shortcuts that depended on homeowners being too tired to fight back. Jordan's home finally felt like a home again, not a contested space. The orange stickers disappeared only after the evidence was officially documented and repairs were complete, the right way at the right time. And the neighborhood learned the part no one likes to admit. When power relies on silence, the most dangerous homeowner is the one who documents everything. If your HOA tried to erase court-ordered proof, what would you do next?